been making films for a long time now, but I'm always surprised during the production of how things can change, different problems can arise, and how I have to go about trying to find a solution on the spot and making sure that the rest of the shoot goes smoothly. Right from pre-production, I knew one of the hardest things that I was going to have to do was make that garbage lid pop up. I knew it was a big moment and that would be kind of like the first big scare for the audience, so I really wanted to make sure it worked and that it got people off guard. Originally, my plan was to do this practically. I met up with my buddy Jordan and we came up with this whole plan on how we would be able to do it and physically get the lid on the garbage pan to pop up in the air. After weeks of planning and texting back and forth, we finally met together to really build the thing out. But we realized that we didn't really have it in the budget to make it pop practically. So I had to turn to CG ultimately. Now, I'm personally not one of those people who think CG is bad, we can't use CG. And I feel like there's this really weird rep in the filmmaking community about CG where like, oh, if you use it, you're cutting corners and this and that. And I really hate that because I think CG is a great tool to use to really enhance your films if you use it correctly. I don't always want to rely on using digital effects. I always want to try to make as much practical as possible, but use the CG elements when it's necessary. A great example of this is when the trash can lid actually falls from the sky and lands on the ground and swirls around. If you look at this shot, it looks really good, and that's because 90% of it is practical, but there is a CG element to it. If you look at the raw footage, you can see the lid was actually just thrown in off the side of the camera. It doesn't exactly shoot out from the sky, it doesn't have that look to it. But I was able to use the clip of it falling and then take a screenshot of the lid and then animate that coming from straight up, so it gives off the impression that the lid is actually falling and slamming down. That shot of the lid landing actually had a lot of post-production work to it that I did not initially plan for, but I knew I had to get done. If we go back to the raw footage, you'll see a bunch of cars passing by in the background, and I knew that was gonna just kill the mood because if there's this person standing behind him, we have all these cars driving around, doesn't really make sense. So what I had to do was get a shot where Marty, our actor, wasn't standing in the way and it was just the background being seen, and then go in frame by frame and cut out those cars individually. This actually worked really well and I'm really happy with the final product. I think my favorite part of filmmaking is those little mistakes and stuff that come up, those problems that just pile up that can seem like it's going to be the end of the world, but then it's your job to really get your crew together, make sure everybody's still optimistic, and just find some way to solve that problem. For that shot where the hand reaches behind Marty and grabs his face, I needed the light to be blocked because you could see the hand. It was too visible and it was giving it away way too earlier in the shot than I wanted to. So I had Jason, one of my friends who was a crew member, basically stand with a black piece of cardboard that I used as a flag. But because we're in upstate New York and we filmed this in mid-November, it was very, very cold. Cannot stress how cold it was. So he was holding it, but I think he was shaking the flag a little, and I didn't notice it on set. But when I was editing and I was looking at the shot, I noticed on Marty's face that the light was flickering a little. Now I'm sure I probably could have gotten away with just not explaining it, but it was really, really bothering me. And I knew I had to find some kind of solution to fix it. So that's where the light flicker shot that's before that came in. Now originally the light wasn't supposed to flicker, but I had to work it into the script in order to make that lighting mistake for the next shot make sense. The only issue with that now was that I didn't have a shot of the street lamp that was fully in focus. No big deal though, right? You can just go outside and get another one. Yeah, that's true, but the thing about shooting in mid-November is that a week later, people like to put out Christmas decorations. So if you actually look at that shot, the dead giveaway that I shot that later is if you look on the door of the house in the background, you can see Christmas lights and like a lit up wreath and all that. Mistakes like that are going to come up, they're going to happen, and you really just have to find a solution to work around it. You can't get stressed about it, you just have to hope that the audience isn't going to focus on it. I have two of these really great RGB lights that I've been using, and I love them. I think they're great. They're probably one of my favorite pieces of equipment that I own. But while we were filming, one of the screws on the stand that holds it came loose and the light came crashing down and broke. Now I had those lights to emulate the same color of the street lamp, so I knew I was going to have to find a workaround. Thankfully I had a second one of those RGB lights I was able to use, but for one of the shots I needed two of them. It's actually that shot where the lid slams down on the ground. You can probably tell that that shot was not fun for me to edit. But if you look at the light on Marty's face, you'll see that it's not orange. It doesn't match the street light. And the reason for that is because the one color light that I had that was working needed to be pointed at the lid. and I had to use just a regular light that I had on Marty. Again, these are just the mistakes that come up with filmmaking, and you just have to hope that the audience goes along with it. They won't notice. And most of the time, they don't. I guess if there's one thing I'm trying to say with this video, is that with filmmaking, you can't really predict what's going to happen when you show up. The only thing you can really do is just plan, plan, plan. Have storyboards, make sure you know what shots you want, make sure you know your lighting setups, just have everything planned because something's gonna go wrong. I don't think I've had a single short film or any project where everything has gone perfect. Something is going to go wrong, and you need to be able to have time to plan with that.